everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Dylan here. We have a major bombshell today from Vice President J.D. Vance that you do not want to miss. He just came out and exposed the truth about everything going on right now, and especially with Operation Epic Fury in full swing, and what him and President Donald Trump are doing to make America great again. And despite what a lot of people are saying, a lot of people are trying to cause division between President Trump and J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is actually, right on track with Donald J. Trump. So we're going to dive into all of this, but before we do, we're going to read scripture because God comes first. Amen? Comment amen if you truly do believe that God comes first in your life. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Amen? So leave the word amen in the comment section down below. And my brothers and sisters, congratulations to everyone who has begun investing in the stock market, who has joined me in trusting in what President Trump is doing right now with America. And I personally am investing heavy into the market right now. And right now, we have a completely free offer for you. If you want to start investing, if you want to join in on this economic boom of a lifetime, click the link below. Or you can now take out your phone and you can open up your camera app and scan this QR code, and it will pop up a link where you can download the app, and it is totally free. I'm not selling you on anything at all. This is just an app that I personally use. So you can scan that or click the link below to start investing. It's very beginner friendly. You can start with $5. You can even start with $1. So get signed up in a couple minutes. Your future self will thank you. Let's jump into the video. All right, guys, J.D. Vance says this just did not pass the smell test. Let's take a listen.
Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, joins us now. Mr. Vice President, why this operation and why now?
Well, good evening, Jesse. So to step back just a little bit, if you go back to Midnight Hammer in the summer, what the president wanted to do with that mission was eliminate Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon. And we did destroy the nuclear enrichment facilities during Operation Midnight Hammer over the summer. Now, here's the thing, Jesse. We destroyed Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon during President Trump's term. We set them back substantially. But I think the president was looking for the long haul. He was looking for Iran to make a significant long-term commitment that they would never build a nuclear weapon, that they would not pursue the ability to be on the brink of a nuclear weapon. And after months, really almost a year of painstaking diplomacy, what the president determined is he didn't want to just keep the keep the country safe from an Iranian nuclear weapon for the first 3-4 years of his second term. He wanted to make sure that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon, and that would require fundamentally a change in mindset from the Iranian regime.
That is insane. So Trump's basically saving the world. Ayatollah and 49 top leaders eliminated. You know when they say, oh, Trump's selfish, Trump's selfish. Well, he's not selfish here because he's doing this for the world. Right? Iran has been a threat to the world, and Trump's trying to eliminate that.
So he saw that the Iranian regime was weakened. He knew that they were committed to getting on that brink of a nuclear weapon, and he decided to take action because he felt that was necessary in order to protect the nation's security.
So Senator Marco Rubio, Secretary Rubio, and the president have both said something along the lines of, you ain't seen nothing yet. We can hit 3 times as hard. What does that mean?
Wow.
Well, what it means, Jesse, is we have a lot of capacity here. I think there's a lot of chatter about what our objectives is, what our goal is. I mean, I think the president's been extremely clear about our objectives, and it's that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But there's also been a lot of conversation about what are our capabilities. And look, I know this stuff. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal classified information here on air, but the president of the United States knows what we're able to do. He knows that we have much greater capacity to inflict damage on the Iranian nuclear program, but also on various missiles that threaten our troops. As you've seen, they've been launching those at our troops for much of the past 3 days. So I think the president has made it very clear that the United States has a lot of optionality here. And, we could go for a little bit longer. We could go for a lot longer. But I think the president just wants to make it clear to the Iranians and to the world that he is not going to rest until he accomplishes that all-important objective of ensuring that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, not just for the next few years, not just because we obliterated Fordo or some other enrichment facility, but because the Iranians themselves commit long-term to not building a nuclear weapon.
You know, after Iraq and Afghanistan, some people say, oh, here we go again. Is that something here you're thinking about?
I feel like this is way different. Like Trump and their team, they're doing this for the world. That's how I see it.
Well, Jesse, if you think back to Afghanistan, 20 years of mission creep, 20 years of not having a clear objective, and 20 years of the United States trying to bring liberal democracy to Afghanistan. Iraq was a little bit shorter, but we were still in that country for nearly a decade with no clear mission, no clear definition. What's so different about this, Jesse, is that the president has clearly defined what he wants to accomplish.
Yep.
And there's just no way, I said this before the conflict started, I'll repeat it again, there's just no way that Donald Trump is going to allow this country to get into a multi-year conflict with no clear end in sight and no clear objective. What is different about President Trump, and it's frankly different about both Republicans and Democrats of the past, is that he's not going to let his country go to war unless there's a clearly defined objective. He's defined that objective as Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and has to commit long-term to never trying to rebuild their nuclear capability. It's pretty clear. It's pretty simple. And I think that means that we're not going to get into the problems that we've had with Iraq and Afghanistan.
Wow, that is insane, guys. Now, take a listen to President Trump.
The United States, as you probably have heard, is doing better than it has ever done in terms of business and investment. The stock market has hit a new high, as you know, and that's for many, many days out of our fairly short 8 months. And we seem to be hitting new highs, and I think we're going to do much better even as time goes by. Jobs are at a record, and most importantly, we have more than $17 trillion, $17 trillion, and this is during an 8-month period being invested in the country, which is not only a record, but if you compare $17 trillion to
all that money coming in. And I've been investing heavy into the stock market. As you can see, my investments right now are up over $32,000 just in the past year, thanks to President Trump. If you want to learn how to invest right now, click the link below. Or you can now take out your phone and you can open up your camera app and scan this QR code, and it will pop up a link where you can download the app, and it is totally free. I'm not selling you on anything at all. This is just an app that I personally use. So you can scan that or click the link below to start investing. It's very beginner friendly. You can start with $5. You can even start with $1. So get signed up in a couple minutes. Your future self will thank you.
Do you and the president care who runs the country now? Or you can just kind of sit back and kind of shape it from the sea and the air?
Well, I guess, Jesse, you know, in a perfect world, yeah, we would love it if somebody came to power in Iran who was willing to work with the United States, who was willing to show some respect to the United States, and again, most importantly, made that long-term commitment that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But ultimately, Jesse, whatever happens with the regime in one form or another, it's incidental to the president's primary objective here, which is to make sure the Iranian terrorist regime does not build a nuclear bomb. So, you know, there are a lot of things that could happen with the regime. Obviously, the president and I would prefer that you have a friendly regime in Iran, a stable country, a country that's willing to work with the United States as opposed to, you know, bomb our soldiers and try to build a nuclear weapon. But fundamentally, so long as we achieve the president's objective to make it clear that Iran can't build the bomb, I think the president will be happy with the outcome.
And you saw evidence that they were still trying to enrich?
Not just that they're trying to enrich, Jesse, and this is one of the almost comical elements of the diplomacy that we've been engaged in for the past month, the past year, I should say. You know, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, they did such a good job, such a deliberate job. But the Iranians would come back to us, Jesse, and they'd say, well, you know, having enrichment for civilian purposes, for energy purposes, is a matter of national pride. And so we would say, okay, that's interesting, but why are you building your enrichment facilities 70 feet underground? And why are you enriching to a level that's way beyond civilian enrichment and is only useful if your goal is to build a nuclear bomb? Nobody objects to the Iranians being able to build, medical isotopes. The objection is these enrichment facilities that are only useful for building a nuclear weapon. Even some international organizations that usually don't agree with the United States were very clear that Iran's only purpose in building these underground, highly enriched facilities was to build a nuclear weapon. It just doesn't pass the smell test for you to say that you want enrichment for like medical isotopes, while at the same time trying to build a facility 70, 80 feet underground.
Yeah, they were trying to jerk you guys around, and that obviously didn't work. Mr. Vice President, God bless you guys, and God bless our troops. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I think J.D. Vance is one of the most intelligent men and leaders that we've really seen. I think we are looking at a future president of this country, J.D. Vance. I think he really has a good grip on what's going on in our nation. So J.D. Vance also just joined Dr. Oz to address fraud, waste, and abuse. So J.D. Vance is doing a lot right now with Dr. Oz. Let's take a listen.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. So let me say a couple things about what we're announcing today, and then I'm going to kick over to Dr. Oz, and then we are going to take a few questions. So as a lot of you know, there are way too many Americans who are being defrauded by very bad actors in our society, people who take the goodwill and the trust of the American taxpayer and they decide to use it against us. They decide to make themselves rich instead of allowing these programs that are set up to make it easier for people to take care of their families, to make it easier for autistic kids to get the after-school services they need, to make it easier for people to get the health care that they need. And we are going to start very aggressively in the administration cracking down on the people and the organizations that are defrauding Americans. So we're announcing today that we have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. Now, what is this going to mean? What this means is that, first of all, the providers on the ground in Minnesota have actually already been paid. The state has paid those providers the money. What we're doing is we are stopping the federal payments that will go to the state government until the state government takes its obligations seriously to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against the American taxpayer. There are a few different ways that we're doing that. There are a few different affirmative actions that we're taking today. Dr. Oz is going to talk about those, but let me talk a little bit about the spirit of this and why we're doing it. So number one of the examples of fraud that we've seen in Minnesota that we verified that is just awful is that a program that existed to ensure that autistic children had access to some after-school services has made a number of people rich, not by providing services to needy children, but by allowing fraudsters to take money that ought by right go to American citizens and to American families and to set up sham businesses, set up sham clients, set up people who are not even autistic but claim to be autistic in order that they benefit from the money that's out there. Now, what does that mean?
That is so effed up. So effed up that people would do that. Like, there are people who need that, and I will happily pay for that with my taxpayer dollars. But the fact that some of it is being used to just these criminals, it should make you pissed.
Number one, it means that a lot of people are getting rich off the generosity of American taxpayers, but more fundamentally and more importantly than that, it means that there are kids in Minnesota who deserve these services, who need these services, and they're not going to those kids, they're going to fraudsters in Minneapolis. That is unacceptable, and that's the sort of thing that we're cutting off with this action today. Let me make one final point about the spirit of this. You know, one of the things I love about our country is that we're a generous country, we're a generous people. We take care of our fellow citizens who can't afford medical care because they're down on their luck. We take care of people who can't afford to put food on the table even though they work hard and play by the rules. We recognize that we're all in this together, and part of the reason why we have Medicaid, or part of the reason why we have food stamps, part of the reason why we have these programs is we want to make sure that kids who grow up in families not all that different from the family that I grew up in, that they have access to the basic necessities: food, medical care, after-school services when their family needs them but they're unable to pay. What's happening in Minneapolis, in California, in a number of states all across our country is that the generosity and the good hearts of our fellow Americans are being taken advantage of. We're taking that social contract that says that our American citizens, we take care of one another, and we're allowing a few bad actors to get rich off that generosity of spirit instead of providing the services to the kids who need it. This is disgraceful. It has happened for too long. Far too many people have gotten rich by taking what is the best of the American spirit and getting rich off of it instead of providing services to kids who need it. That is stopping today. We're taking a whole of government approach in the Trump administration to take this fraud seriously. What Mehmet Oz and his team at CMS have done is really remarkable, and it's just the first step of our efforts. So without further ado,
that is amazing, guys, that they're actually getting rid of this stuff. So you could expect, I personally believe that getting rid of all this crap is actually going to help boost the economy and help boost the stock market, which is just one more reason to begin investing if you haven't already. Okay? Public also has a 1% match on your retirement too. So if you click that link below to sign up for Public, you could take advantage of that 1% match. That is huge if you do have a retirement account. So click that link below or take out your phone, scan that QR code, and even President Trump said that this is a great time to go out and buy stock now. He says this is a great time to get rich, richer than ever before. It's totally free, not selling you anything. Begin investing, click that link. Now, JD Vance just came out to address the nation at the International Association of Firefighters. This guy does not sleep. I don't know when he sleeps, okay? Let's tune in, guys.
Thank you so much, Ed. It's great to be here. It's great to have you in our nation's capital. I always say to everybody, this is a very big group. I can't see any of you because these spotlights are glaring bright. The person who runs these spotlights, Ed, must be a Democrat because I cannot see a single person in that crowd. But I'm told there's about 700 of you out there, and so I say to everybody, whether it's a small school group or 700 great firefighters from all across our country, that this is your nation's capital. This is your capital. Your tax dollars built these beautiful monuments and museums, and I know you got a lot of work to do while you're here in Washington, but I hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy this beautiful city, especially as the weather turns really nice here in Washington, D.C. Now, the one bad thing about the weather is when it starts to get warm, you know, as a politician, we're gearing up for political campaign season. And I'm probably as sick of politics as you all are, so that's the one downside. But I hope you enjoy this beautiful spring weather and enjoy your nation's capital while you're here. We're thrilled to have you. And I just want to say thank you so much to Ed and to the entire team at the International Association of Firefighters. Ed Kelly has been a great advocate for you and for firefighters all across the United States of America. In fact, when we met backstage very briefly, we talked a little bit about some of the great legislative accomplishments of the Trump administration, and we'll talk a bit about that here in a second. But then the second half of the conversation was Ed trying to shake me down even more. He was trying to think, what else can we get out of this administration? And I love that. I love a guy who fights for his people. I love a firefighter who knows he stands for and represents firefighters. And I hope all of you know that we're going to work with you over the next few years to continue to solve the problems that exist for our firefighting community. One of the things that a lot of you know about this administration and hopefully appreciate about this administration, but I'm going to make my pitch here, is that we have been unique among Republicans in that we haven't turned away organized labor. We have tried to find ways to work with organized labor. Not that we're always going to agree, but another great Bostonian, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters Union, we found ways to work together to serve working people. And there is no group of people that is harder working and more important for our community than our firefighters. And so thank you all for being here, and thank you for honoring me by inviting me to give you a few remarks today. Now, before I get into some of my other remarks, I want to just start on a slightly somber note here, because on a personal level, I was honored to be able to participate in the dignified transfer of 6 American soldiers who were killed overseas in this conflict with Iran. And I had never done that before, and a lot of you served our nation in uniform. I know a number of our firefighters have all across our country. And I just want to say that if you are the praying type, and I certainly am, I hope you'll spare a prayer for the 6 souls that we lost, for the 7th soul who will be coming home tonight, and for all of their families. You all know better than almost any category of Americans what it means to put on a uniform and to sacrifice for our country. And so I hope you'll share a moment of prayer for our brothers in arms, for your brothers in arms who keep this country safe in their own way, just as you keep the country safe in your particular way. So, to move on a little bit, let me just say that what we have tried to do in the Trump administration, what we have tried to accomplish is to make your lives easier, knowing, of course, that we're never going to be able to make your lives completely easy. You guys have some of the hardest jobs that exist anywhere in the United States of America, and you represent thousands and thousands of firefighters all across the United States of America who make it possible for our communities to be safe, who make it possible for our communities to run smoothly, who make it possible for a kid to be able to call 911 if they have to and know that a man or a woman who is professional, who is competent, and who is caring is going to show up when we need them. And that's the thing that I admire so much about all of you. You know, every country, every empire, every society in history made it possible for a rich person to get what they needed. But what makes the United States so unique is that whether you're rich or poor, you're black or white, when you need public services, when you need your police officers, when you need your firefighters, when you need those EMT specialists, we make it, and we try hard to make it, so that everybody who needs something in that critical moment has access to it. Everybody deserves public safety, not just rich people. Every person deserves to know that if, God forbid, their house catches on fire, there's going to be somebody with water there to put it out, not just the powerful. And what I admire about this spirit of public service that exists in this community is that every single one of you put on a uniform, the people that you serve put on a uniform and make it possible for kids like me, kids who didn't grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth, to have access to that critical public safety and that security in their neighborhoods. Now, a lot of you, I came and spoke in Boston a couple of years ago, and so what I say may come, you may have heard me say it in Boston, but I'm going to repeat it for those of you who didn't hear me say it in Boston, which is that, a couple times I was one of those scared little kids who had to call the firefighters, who had to call the EMTs. My own mother struggled with opioid addiction for a very large chunk of my life, and I remember when she was having a particularly dark moment and she needed some help. I needed some help. Our family needed some help. I picked up the phone, I called 911, and a number of brave, professional, compassionate firefighters from Middletown, Ohio showed up, and they calmed my mom down, and they made it possible for us to go on with the rest of our day. They made a kid who was scared to death feel like he had an ally in this world. I will never forget that. I will never forget also when we had to call 911, it wasn't a firefighter, it was an EMT who came and took my mom to the hospital because she had had a very terrible overdose. And I remember holding her hand, hoping to God that she would be okay, that she would wake up. We know a lot of our people have not woken up when they have those opioid overdoses, but by the grace of God, my mom did wake up. And by the way, she's now been clean and sober for north of 11 years. We celebrated her 10-year sobriety. Thank you. So let me just say that all of you deserve to live in this great country, and all of us in this administration are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as we rebuild the United States of America. I want you to be proud in your country because I know that your country and your president are very, very proud of you, and we're grateful to you. Thanks, everybody, and God bless you.
Now, President Trump just came out to address the nation. Let's listen in.
The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom, and the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal? They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball, and I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be unbelievable. The thing that people have to talk about
We're up almost to $7 trillion of investment coming into our country. And you'll see how it's going to turn out. Our country's going to boom.
President Trump says our country and the market is going to boom. I've been investing heavily into the stock market, and even within the past year, just by investing into basic stocks, you know, S&P 500, total stock market mutual fund, QQQ, I am up over $30,000. I mean, Donald Trump literally said on April 9th that this is a great time to buy, and he also said this is a great time to get rich, richer than ever before. Personally, I'm putting my money on President Trump right now. I'm listening to him. He says this is a great time to buy. I'm listening. If you want to begin investing into the stock market, click the link below. Or you can now take out your phone and you can open up your camera app and scan this QR code, and it will pop up a link where you can download the app, and it is totally free. I'm not selling you on anything at all. This is just an app that I personally use. So you can scan that or click the link below to start investing. It's very beginner friendly. You can start with $5. You can even start with $1. So get signed up in a couple minutes. Your future self will thank you.